Thanks for joining, everyone. Welcome to the Teletech ICT webinar. This is in conjunction with Datto. My name is Peter Eldon from Datto. I'll introduce myself in a couple of moments. And I'd like to thank the team at Teletech for inviting us along to have this webinar in relation to business resilience and business continuity. Now, normally we would do this webinar live in person, and we would have a bit of food available and a few drinks. And of course, 2020 had different ideas for us. And so we're doing this as a webinar. But you will receive a Uber Eats voucher to the value of $25 from the team at the end of the webinar. So stay on for that. If you have any questions, please put your questions into the Q&A and we will get to them at the end. So as I said, this was brought to you by Teletech, who is an MSP you'll be engaged with. And these guys offer numerous services from telephony, carrier services, voice and data, including VoIP, as well as internet, and then cloud managed services, all the way through to managed services agreements and break fix as well. So a total communications and IT provider that can really help you with the collaboration tools and the integration of what were two separate areas from voice and data and IT, and now very much one and are driving efficiencies. From a security standpoint, the team really push across this three-tiered support of protect, proactive and partnered, and this will provide proactive managed services support no matter your size or no matter your requirements. And if we look at the method in which we manage IT services these days, that proactive front foot approach of making sure that security is appropriate and also productivity and efficiency tools are there means that businesses can really get on with what they do best and then have the IT trusted partner in the background can then support the team. Looking at the team, we have John, who is Managing Director, and Brian, and then a great team of motivated and energetic members who can support your IT and communication needs. So, as I said, my name is Peter Eldon. I'm the Senior Channel Development Manager for Datto. And as I said, my job is to go around and educate and hopefully entertain around business continuity and business resilience. That's me. Two pictures of me are too many, so let's move on. So I want to tell you a little bit about Datto, because what we're asking you and the Teletech team is to trust us with your data to protect that. And obviously we've got to earn that trust. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about the business. So we're an East Coast US business. We actually just went to an IPO on the New York Stock Exchange just a few weeks ago. We have offices all around the world in every continent there are people. And from an Australian standpoint, we have a presence in Sydney and Melbourne. We have a head office in Melbourne. We have around 80 staff. In Sydney, we have 80 staff. And we have a data center in Melbourne and in Sydney. And that's important because all of your data stays within the Australian sovereignty and are covered by Australian rules. We're 100% channel only. And what that means is we only work with organizations like Teletech and teams like that, so managed service providers. And the reason for that is, we're extremely good at that data security, data integrity, and data protection. But you need organizations like Teletech who really understand your needs and requirements and can, quite frankly, keep us in line. So you get that great combination of a multinational IT business with a managed service provider with a local investment, knowledge, and engagement that really gives you the best of both worlds. We've got over 1,700 staff globally, and 70% are either building solutions or supporting solutions. So we're a very technical business. And we have it's now over 500 petabytes of data under our protection globally, and over 150,000 devices that are protecting individual businesses around the world. So as I said, the idea of this webinar is to talk about business continuity and business resilience. And what do I mean by that? Well, business continuity, and not only a technology, but as a methodology and a strategy, is designed to ensure that your business can trade through whatever event is thrown at you. And, 2020, we've had quite a few. So, when we look at the difference between a backup, a disaster recovery solution, and then a business continuity solution, it really comes down to your ability to trade through an event, no matter what that event. So be it a physical event or be it a virtual attack, business continuity means that you've got the plan, processes, and technology in place that will get you not only will survive that event, but can thrive through that event. And so we're going to not just talk about our technology, we're going to talk about methodology that puts you in a best place to get through any unexpected events. So the 5 safe tips, best practices to protect your data. The first one is a firewall. And a firewall is a piece of equipment that sits on the edge of your network. So basically your internal network, the firewall is what connects it to the outside internet. And the firewall makes sure that whatever comes into your network is legit and isn't going to cause damage. And the best way I can explain a firewall to non-technical people is it's like a bouncer. It's like a security guard. And it stands on the front of a venue, and the security guard lets in people who it believes will be legitimate and do the right thing. And that's what a firewall does for your business. It makes sure that whoever's coming in there is legitimate and should be in there. And then a spam filter. So if we were in the same room together, if we were doing this in a live event, I would ask how many of you guys are annoyed at your spam filter, because sometimes it picks up things that aren't spam. And a few of you guys would put your hands up and say yes, and I'd say good. Because you want your spam filter to be wound up a little bit harder, because you want it picking up, if it's picking up things that aren't spam every now and again, then it's certainly picking up the things that are spam. So that little inconvenience of having every now and again to go into a spam folder and find something that isn't spam, well, that's much better than having a major downtime through a malware attack. And then server and endpoint antivirus. If we don't really need to spend a lot of time on this, people understand the importance of antivirus. It's important that you're engaging your trusted advisors, your MSPs, so the Teletech team, to make sure that your not only your antivirus, but any of your solutions are best practice and the next gen of technology, because we're in an arms race here, and the bad guys, as we'll look at in a little while, are constantly evolving and changing their attack vectors. And so our response to that needs to change, and we need to make sure that we're using best of breed technologies to protect our data and our customers' privacy. I mean, this is an area that you may not have thought about, but it's one that I really recommend you have a look at. And this is staff training around cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness. Because we're going to talk about technology, and we're a technology business, but I'll be the first one to tell you that technology can only go part of the way. The technology will never be as good as a motivated and educated staff member looking for strange or unusual activity. So having your staff members trained and being aware of their responsibilities and also aware of what risks and threat profiles out there will go a long way of protecting your data from financial loss, reputational loss, and potential litigation and compliance issues with the government. And I recommend you have a talk to the team, Paul and the team, about how you can engage and integrate staff training into an overall solution. We might just have someone on the line right now who isn't muted. So if there's any of the panelists that may have jumped on, if you could just throw yourselves on mute, that would be fantastic. And then the final part of this of protecting your data is a recent and easily recoverable copy of your data. And that's what we do at Datto, is we provide an ability to quickly recover a copy of your data in a chance of a downtime and allow you to trade through that event. And when we talk to our partners, so we talk to Teletech and a lot of our other MSPs, they tell us that our business continuity solution is the most important part of protecting a customer's data. So if we look at this journey up the mountain here of data protection, you know, all of these other areas are very important. So as we said, antivirus, patch management, employee training, they're all important, but they're all preventative. They need to work 100%, 100% of the time. Whereas the option that we give, or the solution that we give, it is the only one that works after an event or after an attack. Because what we give is, in effect, a time machine. It allows you to go back in time to before the physical event or before the virtual attack and recover your data before it's damaged, and allows you to trade through that. So how do we do that? Well, let me just quickly show you. Don't worry, this is as technical as I can get and will get. So what we do, and it's important to look at our data as where our data and so where it lives. So there's really two places that your data lives. It either lives on your premises, on your servers, or in a data center that you may have access to, and that's when they're your servers. And you know, your applications live on there and your data as well. And then the second place your data can live is in SaaS applications. So things like Office 365 or G Suite or Xero or things like this. And so we're going to look and we're going to talk about the risks that data at both of those places and how we can help protect that. So in this particular first instance, what we're going to talk about is your data held on premise, so in the cloud. When we look at that data on premises, we're talking about servers that you've got in your offices or servers that you've got in a data center under your access. So what we do to protect them is, in conjunction with the Teletech team, is we put a physical piece of equipment into your offices. And that Datto device then talks to all your critical infrastructure. So your physical servers, your virtual servers, and also your politically important PCs and laptops. And what we do as frequently as every 5 minutes, but generally every hour, we would take a copy of that entire server and hold that on the Datto device. So a full snapshot of a server. Now, if you notice there, I didn't say a backup, because when you take a backup, you are only taking a copy of your files. Whereas what we're doing here, when we take a snapshot of a server, we take the entire server. So the server itself, the operating system, the drivers, your applications, and then your important files and folders that are held in there. And we take a copy of that and we hold that on the Datto device. And we also use our own IP to push that to the Datto cloud, which, as I said, is in Melbourne and Sydney. Now, from a disaster recovery standpoint, this is a best practice, because what you've got here is 3 copies of your data, 2 on site, and then 1 in an air-gapped off-site cloud environment. And that's brilliant for DR. But as I said, we're talking about business continuity, and so we go an additional step. So the difference is, on the smart in our solution, is in that Datto device, we have redundant CPU and memory. And what that means is, let's say you have an issue on your premises where you lose a server. And so one of the servers that you use for your invoicing or your emails or your CRM or your ERP, whatever it is, that server dies. Motherboard could go, power pack blows up, whatever it is. So you'd call Paul and the team, John and the team, and you'd speak to them that, well, we can't get into our applications. Very quickly, they would see that there's a major problem here and this is going to be an issue. Now, normally, in a normal backup or DR scenario, you would now be offline until that server's fixed. So the team would have to roll a truck and get a warranty job or whatever it is, and then your staff would kind of have to sit around until you resolve that issue in the background. And that could be as quickly as an hour, or it could be as long as a week or 2 weeks, depending on how big that disaster was. However, with a Datto device, because we're snapshotting those servers, when you ring the team to tell them there's a problem, they can instantly virtualize a copy of that server on the Datto device. That then means that your staff can now work as normal from the Datto device as if it was the other server. And then the team at Teletech can then roll a truck and get that warranty job and get that server fixed in the background. But whilst that's happening, your staff are still working, they're still getting invoices out, they're still looking after customer queries. We're still backing up the rest of the environment, and we're still backing up the server that's been virtualized. So you don't lose any data from any area. Then when that server's been fixed, the team can actually use the Datto device to rebuild that server on the fly and then cut all your staff over back to it with no one knowing there was an issue. So a true business continuity solution. Normally you'll be down for hours to days, whereas with this solution, you would work through that event while they resolve it in the background. Now, let's say you're having a really bad day and you don't just lose one server, but you lose your entire environment. So all of your servers break in your office, and so does the Datto device. And how could that happen? Could be everyone's away for the weekend, the air conditioner breaks in your server room, gets to 45 degrees and everything melts. It could be you have a major malware attack that's affected your entire environment. Well, no matter what that major event is, the team at Teletech can immediately virtualize whatever was on that Datto device in the Datto cloud, and then provide that back to you via a VPN or an RDP. So you could have to send, it could be your entire office that's affected from a flood or a fire or whatever it is. You might send people home. You could put them into a serviced office, but wherever you put them, you would have access to all of your files and applications as if you were sat in the office. Now, you're still having a bad day, right? You've got a major problem in your office, but one of the problems you don't have is access to your critical information, so you can still trade through that event. We would then send you out a new Datto device with all your data on it, and you would then use that to rebuild your environment and then cut that across. So again, a real business continuity solution as opposed to a backup or a disaster recovery. And all of this is backed up by a 24/7, 365-day support. And this is important because what we're doing is we're selling business continuity as a solution rather than a bit of hardware and a software. And what that means is we're really providing an outcome. And that outcome is the access to your data no matter what the event. And that's really important for when there is a major event, and it doesn't only affect you, but it could affect the Teletech team as well. Because we've got an entire team in the US that will help in major incidents, be it a regional fire or a flood or through a major malware attack. And we will back up you and also the Teletech team to support you through no matter what the event, no matter how big it is. Now, this is what the devices look like. You know, they just look like normal servers. They're not really that much different. The important thing to know about these is they go from 500 gig all the way up to 100 TB. So no matter the size of your business or the amount of data you have, we have solutions that will fit really any requirement. And that's important because there's a real conversation going on at the moment about how we look at backup and where the importance is of our data. Because when we think of disasters, we kind of think of these things, right? The big ones, the Hollywood ones. And look, you know, 2020's thrown a number of those at us, and we've still got a couple of months to go. So who knows what the season finale is going to bring. But these aren't the disasters that are probably going to hit your business on a day-to-day environment. When they do, these are massive. And this is really where a business continuity plan really comes into its own, because this will allow you to get through this event. But this isn't the day-to-day thing that's going to hit your business. And if we're all on in the same room together, I'd ask you guys to try and guess what disasters are the biggest disasters to hit a business. And, you know, everyone would go through that. The people who would say people, correct, right? So unfortunately, the biggest disaster that's most likely to hit your business are your staff. It's the people in the business. But that's not really fair to them because, you know, it's not their fault. They need to be online. They need to be requesting information back in. But unfortunately, we can't really trust the information that's coming back into our business because there's so many bad actors out there trying to trick us. And so when we look at the breakdown of what causes interruptions to businesses and what causes data loss, we see that human error and ransomware, so malware and hackers, they make up 96% of all downtime incidents. You know, if you think about hardware these days, hardware is getting pretty good. You know, it's got quite a lot of redundancy in there. And so that, you know, that does pretty well these days. And as we said, natural disasters, they hopefully don't hit often, but when they do, they're big. So let's have a little bit of a deep dive around bad actors, malware, crypto, and hackers. Let's have a bit of a chat about that. So the first malware attack, or the first crypto attack we saw in Australia, was in 2013. And what would happen is you'd be working away on your laptop in 2013, and all of a sudden everything would freeze, and a big Australian Federal Police logo would appear on your screen. And underneath that, it said, you've been doing something illegal or immoral on your computer, and we're going to give you a $1,500 fine. And it's the internet, so a lot of people are doing something illegal or immoral on their computer, so a lot of people thought that checked out. But this supposed Australian Federal Police fine, the way you paid that was by a money order to India. But you'd be amazed how many people paid that, because no one had ever seen this before, right? It was absolutely a groundbreaker. And so that date's a really important date for us in the industry and for us who look at data protection, because we see that anything before that date was BC, before crypto. And anything after that date is AC, after crypto, because this was a game changer. And if you take one thing away from this webinar, I would recommend it's this. If your backup on disaster recovery technology, solutions or strategies are from on or around this date, then they're not equipped to protect you after this date, because this is a game changer. Everything up until this date we were doing in the industry is we were trying to protect you from a physical event. So a fire, a flood, a power outage, something breaking. We weren't sitting here as an industry trying to think up of ways of protecting you from criminal enterprises, from trying to ransom your data away from you. And I can certainly tell you after that date, we certainly did. And we've been working very hard on it after that date. But before that date, we didn't look at that. So you've just got to make sure that your solutions and strategies and technologies are fit for purpose and are going to protect you to the risks moving forward. And, you know, this is what it looks like. If anyone's seen one of these, I'll guarantee you've had a bad day. This is what pops up when you get malware. Now, when we look at this as well, it's important to understand the type of people who are attacking our businesses. They're not, you know, fat kids sat in their mum's basement. This is highly organized criminal enterprises, and in some cases, enemy states. So you've got situations where you've got enemy states who are using, intelligence service people who are attacking governments and departments of defense and government contractors during the day. And then at night, are moonlighting and using this same weapons grade technology to attack small and medium businesses all around the world. And unfortunately, Australia, APAC, is one of their preferred destinations. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is the case, but unfortunately it is. And, you know, these guys are very innovative. Their whole business model is designed to get your data and then give it back to you if you paid a ransom. And so, you know, a lot of the time they will actually give you your data back when you paid a ransom, but we'll talk about the risks in paying ransoms in a moment. But these guys are running, you know, new plans and new ventures every day about how they can better attack businesses and make more money. And it's important to understand, like, one of them, there's one out there, particular variant, which is called Crypto Locker. That one at its height was doing over $1 million a day in Bitcoin payments from ransoms. So over $365 million in 1 year from attacking businesses. So this is very profitable and very attractive to these criminal gangs. And there's one here I'll just quickly show you, which kind of scared me. This is one that pops up when you get a crypto, and it says you can restore your files the fast and easy way, which is to pay them 1 Bitcoin and they'll give you your data back. Or you can restore it the nasty way, which is if you get 3 other people infected with this link, they would give you your data back. So yeah, it's kind of like Amway for malware, which is terrifying. And what I would recommend is, whatever industry you're in, after this, just do a Google search. Just do a quick search on, legal malware Australia, something like that, and get an idea of how they're attacking your industry. And that's important because, when I spoke earlier about that staff training, well, that's a really good thing to have a chat to them about. So if you're in a particular industry and you see that one of your peers or a business had a hack, have a deep dive, figure out how did they get in? Was it a phishing attack? Did someone open up a fake AGL email? And then educate your staff, because these guys, they're very much looking at the trends. So if they're having a really good campaign of attacking lawyers, well, guess what? They'll really hone on their skills and will go after more lawyers, because they see that as an industry that A, they could easily attack, and B, do regularly pay the ransom. And so I just did a quick search a couple of days ago and just got some regular ones. And this talks about healthcare being a particular heavy attack, and some of the areas that have been hit. We see that TAFE and education, private education, is very attractive to them. Engineering firms, legal, all of these are up there as well. And this gives you an idea of the types of industries. So, we see here education, banking, health, retail. These are all kind of a top of the pops for these guys as well. And the guys at Datto make me to put this in there because I am this person, but I'm sure every one of you knows someone in your office, it might be you, who will click on anything. Now, they're the ones who, we do need to educate. And they're constantly helping me with this, but also these are the things we need to look at when we think about how we protect our data. A couple of other quick ones we'll mention, because you might have seen these in the news. Toll Transport had a significant malware attack about 2 months ago. This was a horror story. They were down for multiple weeks. They were attacked twice because the bad guys had left a back door into that network. And, if you talk to the Toll Transport IT people before the event, they'd have said, oh, yeah, we've got a disaster recovery plan. We're fine. And yes, they had a copy of their data and they could recover that. But I would argue if you're down for 2 weeks, you're still in a disaster. If you can't do what you do as your primary job for 2 weeks while your IT team try and recover your data, that's a disaster for sure. And that's where business continuity is different, because what a business continuity solution allows you to do is to still keep access to your files and keep trading while your IT team fix it in the background. The other one on here is Lion Nathan. Obviously, Lion Nathan are the makers of the fantastic and glorious Forex beer. Shout out to everyone who didn't win State of Origin last night. I am in Queensland. I am going to gloat a little bit. And they had a hack a couple of months ago as well. Have a Google of that one. They got hit, and it did hit beer production for a while, which did make me a little bit nervous. So why am I telling you this? Well, it's to give you an idea that these guys are hitting any sort of business. There's no business that is safe, or there's no business that they won't go after. And, be it large business that they think's got more money, or small business that's easier for them to attack, they're gonna hit us all. Finally, another one from a medical industry is a hospital in Melbourne. This kind of popped up in my feed from last year. This was terrible. They lost 15,000 medical files. It interrupted heart surgeries for this hospital. And the reason I show this one is because we talk about financial loss, so the loss of being able to trade, but there's also significant reputational loss as well when we have one of these attacks, and there can be some compliance and legal issues as well. So we've talked about the how people are attacking. Let's have a quick chat about the cost of these attacks. So again, we survey our MSP community every year, and they give us stats on the real cost of these attacks. And what this tells us is the average cost of a business recovering from a malware attack or a crypto, if they don't pay the ransom and they don't have business continuity, is 23 times more than the cost of the attack. So let's have a look at that. So the average malware ransom these days is around $6,000. So you get hit by a ransom and they'll ting up and go, give us $6,000 in Bitcoin, we'll give you your data back. But the average cost of a business recovering from a malware attack, if they don't pay the ransom and they don't have business continuity, is around $141,000. And again, how do we get that number? Well, that number's worked out from, the length of time a business is down, and then all the costs in that business. So the cost of the IT team to actually pay to work on it to fix it, the cost in revenue of not being able to bill and do your core business purpose, the cost of your staff, because you still got to pay them, the cost of your building, and all those sunk assets. When you add all that up for the average time, it's $141,000. And I know a number of you are probably sitting here going, well, hang on a second, if that's going to be 141 grand, why don't we just pay the $6,000? Which, you can do. And as I said, some of the bad guys do give you your data back. And to be, I was going to say fair to them, that's probably not the right word, but to be, to be analytical, probably 80% of the time they will give you your data back. However, if you do pay the ransom, you've done three things. So the first thing you've done is you've told them that you exist, because a lot of this stuff's just spam, right? They don't really know they've got someone until you reply back to their hit saying, yes, I've been hit. What do we do? Secondly, you've told them that your data is important to you because you're trying to get it back. And thirdly, you've told them you got money. So if you do pay the ransom and you do get your data back, you will be hit again. So these guys will put you on a does pay list and they will come back. And what you don't know as well is what backdoors they've put into that data that they then send back to you. And of course, if you do pay a ransom, then you do then need to have a discussion around the Data Breach Notification Act, because that is a clear breach. And we'll have a quick chat about that in a minute. Okay, so what we've done, we've covered a fair bit. We've spoken about the difference between a backup and business continuity. We've talked about how we can protect our data on premise. And we've had a quick chat around some of the bad actors and the ways that the bad guys are attacking businesses in APAC. What I want to do now is just have a quick chat around the data that's in the cloud. As we talk about what's on-prem, let's talk in the cloud. So Datto provides a backup for Office 365 and G Suite. If we look at Office 365, which is probably a lot of you guys are on, so what we do is we take a copy of your entire Office 365 tenancy every 8 hours. So 3 times a day. And we have a copy of that data that's readily available to you guys in a third-party area separate to Microsoft, which is in Sydney and Melbourne. And we take a copy of the entire data. So your mail, your OneDrive, your SharePoint, your Teams, everything. And we make that available. And I'm sure a couple of you are sitting there now going, well, hang on a second, why are you taking a copy of the data? If it's in the cloud, it's being backed up, isn't it? Well, no, it's actually not. So it's important when you move your data to a cloud provider, so a SaaS, software as a service, so 365, G Suite, Salesforce, Xero, any of these. It's important that you as the data owner understands what the responsibilities are of you and also that provider. Who does what? How do you get your data back? Because what you'll find is most of these SaaS vendors work on a mutual obligation licensing. And what does that mean? Well, it basically means they're going to cover some stuff and you need to cover some stuff as well. So when we look at Microsoft as an example, what Microsoft say is that they're responsible to make sure that you can always get access to the cloud. So they're going to make sure that they're going to build their data centers in a safe place. They're not going to put it in a fire zone. They're going to make sure that their software works. They're going to make sure they've got plenty of power, plenty of internet connections, which means you can always get access to the Office 365 cloud. However, you as the data owner are responsible for protecting the data held inside the cloud. So all your files and the likes. And what do you need to protect it from? Well, as we see here, human error, fat fingers, just people deleting stuff accidentally. And then 3 months later going, oh, hang on a second, I need that PDF, I need that spreadsheet, whatever it is. That's not Microsoft's responsibility, right? If you delete something, you deleted it, then you can't really recover it. So having that Backup off-site means you can always get access to that information. Malicious insiders. So, this is an area that we see quite a lot of staff members might have been fired or they might be leaving, and they go in there and just delete stuff, either without thinking about it or to try and cover tracks. Could be someone who's trying to perpetuate fraud. We've seen situations like that where they go in and change invoices and the likes. Once that's deleted out of Microsoft, it's gone, whereas we've got a copy of that. And then the other area where we're seeing a significant increase is around external hackers and malware. Because as I said earlier, these guys, they're very profitable criminal enterprises. So they're constantly looking at new areas and new ways to get money. And they look at businesses going to SaaS providers. And so they turn their focus to attack SaaS providers. And when we have a look at the terms and conditions, we can see this, and I don't know about you guys, but if you ever have any trouble sleeping, reading terms and conditions is a good way to fix that. So this is Microsoft terms and conditions. I think it's page 4,992 or something like that. And what that says is, as I said here, is Microsoft has no liability for deletion of customer data. G Suite says something similar. Again, just saying that it's not their responsibility for the data if you delete it or lose it or it gets hacked. And also they go on to say that they recommend you keep your data a copy in a third-party location separate to them. And again, why do they all say that? It's the same as us, because 1 in 3 companies do see data loss, and it's imperative that, whatever your solution, be it on-prem or in the cloud, then you've got your data protected and recoverable for your own peace of mind, but also for compliance as well. So we've done on-prem, in premises, we've done in the cloud, and we've talked about the way that people are hacking businesses to try and get it in. I just want to quickly show you another area which is quite interesting, which is quite a personal one for me, about the different styles of way that they're attacking businesses, and in particular phishing. And phishing is where what the bad guys do is they look on your social media, they look at the information and try and build a profile on you to trick you to doing something. And I'm going to use this gentleman here as this example about how phishing attacks can be used. Now, this gentleman here, he works in, or used to work in, and that's important. He used to work in Hawaii, clearly, because he's got a Hawaiian shirt on. And he worked in a department in Hawaii that was responsible for telling the island about disasters or impending attacks. And this is a picture from this gentleman's social media account from a number of years ago. And I don't know if you guys remember, but about 3 years ago in January, the whole of Hawaii received a text. So every phone in Hawaii received a text to say that a ballistic missile was inbound, and basically the whole island was in a lot of trouble. Now, this gentleman here was responsible for that department that sent that message out. And how do I know that? Well, I was in Hawaii when that message went out. And this is a screenshot from my phone on the 13th of January. And it was 8 a.m. in the morning, and I was sat on a toilet, and this message popped up on my phone and all my family's in a hotel. As it says there, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And might I tell you, the toilet is the best place to be when that message comes through. Now, it took them 35 minutes to send a second text to tell us that this was an error and we weren't all going to die in a nuclear missile attack. And might I tell you, that 30 minutes was quite an interesting 30 minutes. But back to this gentleman here who was responsible for that. Now, the US government have never said exactly what happened here. But as I said, this is a picture from his social media account a couple of weeks before that message went out. And again, if we're all in the same room, I'd ask you guys to see if you can pick any problems with this picture that he put up on his social media. And for you guys who've got the good eyes, yeah. So if you have a look there on his screen, is his password. He's got his username and password on there that he put on social media. Now, the government's never said exactly what happened, but needless to say, this gentleman is no longer working there. And this is a good example about, how these bad guys and these hackers will use information that we put up online against us. And what they'll do is they'll use information to build a profile of people in your business. They'll even work out the cadence of how they speak and what words they use. And then they'll wait until it's on their LinkedIn that they're going on holiday, or Facebook that they're going on holiday, and suddenly your CFO gets an email pretending to be from the CEO on holiday saying, hey, listen, I just bought a business. Can you move $20,000 to this account, or something like that? And this is where that staff training, as well as technology, is super important to be able to protect our data and also our customers' privacy. So the last bit I'm going to quickly talk about is some of the consequences of data loss. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of what the Data Breach Act is, but I'll just give a little bit of a cover on this. But I do recommend that you talk to the Teletech team about this, because this is something that covers most businesses in Australia. And what this is legislation that was put in by the federal government that is part of the Privacy Commission. And what it does is it's a set of rules and responsibilities for Australian businesses for when they get a breach, a data loss, or a hack, or a crypto, then what they need to do about reporting to the department, but also to customers who could have been affected by that breach. It also covers what reasonable steps you need to do to protect that data. And again, what reasonable steps is what we showed you earlier, the firewall, the staff training, antivirus, business continuity. These are all things that go towards, you taking reasonable steps so you don't get that, the act or the department sees that you did try to protect that data. And I'd recommend that you pop on and have a look at that site, because it's got some really good facts and interests about the styles of businesses that have been attacked and the types of attacks that are happening. And as I said, this further just cements what we're talking about here. It's malicious malicious hacks and also human error. When we look down there, we see that in that light blue on the right, phishing, which is that type of trick, get you to trick you to give them access or trick you to send them something. We also see that malware, hacking, and ransomware are all up there, and these are the things that are hitting businesses quarterly. Types of businesses that are being attacked: healthcare, finance, education, insurance, legal, and professional services. So again, what we spoke about earlier. And again, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work that out. They're going to businesses that rely on IT a lot, have a lot of data, and are more likely to pay to get that data back if they're successful. And just a quick who's who, these are a lot of businesses that have been attacked just in one quarter of last year, Bunnings, people like this. And so if you've been using, say, the Marriott, for instance, on a loyalty program or something like that, then potentially passwords and usernames that you've used have been hacked and are available in the dark web. Now, you might say, well, I don't really care if my Marriott one's in there. It doesn't really affect me. And you're right, it may not. But as humans, what we tend to do is we tend to use the same passwords or the same cadence and passwords on lots of sites. So the password and username you use on Bunnings to get your click and collect could be very similar to the password you use on Office 365. And so what the bad guys do is they get that information from Bunnings and people like that, and then they will blast every SaaS product out there, hitting them with usernames and passwords until they get a hit. And that's why, again, you need to be talking to, or I recommend you talk to your managed service providers, the Teletech team, about best practices around security, emails, integrity, passwords, all that type of thing. Because it's very hard for a business to be doing what your core business is, as well as trying to keep across of all the things that are happening out there from a security standpoint. So I have covered an absolute ton of information here, but what I'm going to do, I'm just going to see if the team are there who can join me and just talk a little bit about what we've been doing in Q&A. So I'm just going to ask, team, are you there? Is there anyone there who's available to join me?
Yep. Can you back?
We have any of the team there? Oh, there we go. Oh, I just saw you for a quick second. John, are you there? Hello, John. Can you hear me?
I'm on unmuted now, Peter, if you're available. It's Brian.
Brilliant. I can hear you. Welcome. Thanks for jumping on. And there's been a ton of information we've covered here, but is there anything you'd like to discuss?
Well, just emphasise with everybody on the call that, as you said, there is a tons of information. There's lots of things to discuss. So please feel free to contact us and talk about your specific requirements, and we'll assist you with getting the right sort of business continuity in place for you.
Brilliant. So we've the guys have spoken to us at Datto and have said, look, this is something that they would like to put a call to action or a promotion off the end of this to help people who've joined on. So as well as the $25 Uber Eats voucher, the guys have negotiated hard and hit us up for some discounts. And so we're very keen to support the team on this. And so the guys have offered 80% off the hardware for some of those on-premise solutions. And what I would say is, look, if you've got any questions about this, or if any of you guys would like to have a one-on-one demonstration about how this works and how easy it is to recover data, please reach out to the team. They'll be able to organize some time with the Datto team. We can do it by Zoom, maybe take you 40 minutes or something, just have a deep dive on that. So fantastic initiative. I'm glad you guys squeezed us on that to get these guys an offer, and that will be available. And I think that's available until mid-December. Is that right, guys? Yeah, the guys will come through and talk to you a little bit about that.
That's correct. Yep.
Brilliant. Well, look, all I want to do now is I just want to bring that over to questions. So we've come in. We're coming up to 8 minutes to the hour, so we've got a little bit of time. But guys, if any of you have got questions out there, please, by all means, throw it into the Q&A. I think that we've got something here. Let me just go and have a look. That is someone saying, sorry we're late. Absolutely no problem at all being late. We're very happy you can join us. So we just got a question here about, what's it here? We're asking, we talk about how a site can be hit and it can get a crypto, but can the Datto get crypto? And that's a really good question. So when we look at how crypto works, crypto doesn't kind of just hit a business and then 10 minutes later all your stuff is being encrypted. What it does is it comes in, and the first person who opens it, it then steadily tries to move all across your network and all your important computers and servers. And once it's got full saturation, then it hits you up with this message. In the background, it's been changing all the file names so you can't get access. So what we do at Datto is we actually run malware detection software on the devices. And what it's looking for is strange or unusual file activity. And so the reason for that is that once it starts to try and hit that first machine and we can spot that, then we can tell John and the team very quickly that there's a problem, and then they can shut that machine down and delete that and recover from the Datto. So although you can get a server that's got crypto on it, and that can be copied onto the Datto, that's not live crypto because that's like a copy and it's not operating. And so you can't actually get Datto to affect the crypto or the crypto to affect the Datto. It would only affect the individual machine, and then we could use that to recover. But a really good question. And then we have another one here about how long do we keep data? So that's a really good question as well. So the question is what is our policy for retention of data? And so you'll hear about this a lot. And if you look at what your current solution is, it will be 30 days, 60 days, 90 or 12 months or something like that. So at Datto, we give you the option of holding your data forever or for 1 year. And we'd recommend the forever, because what that means is if you're a partner of ourselves and Teletech and we're moving forward, we can always recover data from the first time you were a customer of ours. And that's very powerful because that means 5 years from now, you could be in litigation or compliance. And you say to John and the team, hey, listen, we need to get access to data from 5 years ago. They can instantly virtualize the servers from 5 years ago and give you access to you or compliance or whatever it needs to be. And then you can pull that information as if you were there on that day. So very powerful from a compliance standpoint. You know, if you look at financial, you're going to hold data for 7 years. Other industries have significantly long data retention where you're covered for that for the entire time. And I think we've just got one more. I'll just have a look in there. The solution you showed that can move the server from on-premise to the cloud, what performance issues would you see around running on the cloud? So a really good question again. These are all great questions, guys. So the question is, will we see a performance issue if we move to the cloud? So what happens is when we move to the cloud, obviously you're going to move there for temporary and you're going to move all your critical servers. But the way we size up a Datto device is we would size that with John's team to be able to provide you with enough bandwidth to run your critical applications, be it on site or in the cloud. So depending on where people are and how good their bandwidth is, there could be a little bit of a hit there. But as long as they've got decent bandwidth, then you should see activity or access that would be allow you to basically get on with your day. So there will be a little bit of performance hit, but it will be usable and you'll be able to trade through that. And the reason we do that is because we know that it's because part of bringing these systems on, we actually provide the ability to do DR testing in there as part of a service. And what that means is that when you bring your service on, John and the team will actually run some DR testing and show the end customer that and be able to show how successful it is and how it runs, so you can do that testing. And that means that in a real DR scenario, we've already got this blueprint of what you need, and we bring your servers up quickly and with enough bandwidth to be able to provide a usable system for you. So yeah, great question, but you know, you wouldn't want to be in the cloud for 3 months, but it will certainly be usable in a manner that will allow you to trade through whatever that event was. Okay, I'm just looking here. I believe we might have got all the questions. Guys, is there anything you want to say to finish up? But I think we might let these people get on with their day.
Just thanks for your attendance.
Hear me now? Peter, am I audible now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, good. All right, firstly, thank you very much for your comments today and your assistance in taking the time out to present the products. Thanks everyone for attending. I hope you found it useful and valuable, and I think there's some great takeouts from it, especially around the points of educating your staff with potential issues, and more importantly, have a strategy in place that will minimise potentially the risk of something if it does happen. I suppose as a short story, just to cap it off, we from time to time do some sampling of different products to see, one, whether our systems are efficient, and two, offerings that we put to our customers are I suppose best of breed in a lot of respects. We sampled the Datto product over the last 6 months and put it through simulated issues and faults, and we found as a product, it's an overall solution. It's not just a partial component of one or the other, which it sort of stands aside from everything else that's on the market. To the point where we're extremely impressed with the product and actually implemented in here in our business and are using it now and have been for the last 6 months, and it's been faultless and very efficient. Yeah, really appreciate the product. Peter, just as a final thanks for your input and assistance today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and thanks everyone for attending. We are exactly on an hour. I love it when we do it efficiently. So thanks everyone for joining, and please reach out to John and the team in relation to more information. Everyone have a lovely day.